All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to today's edition of Swag Talk. Of course, this is the show we cover the swag inside and out. And I am your tour guide around the swag. See Wells coming at you. And as you can see on the screen, it's time for week 9, man. We are in the middle of, well, we are at the end of October, and things are starting to heat up, man. The division race, especially in the West Side, is definitely heating up big time. So we got a lot of games that's going to impact that situation. Um, 3 games that affect the West Division standings. One huge game in Jackson, and a couple homecomings. So we're not gonna waste a lot of time, man. We're gonna go ahead and hop into this. As you can see, the socials on the screen, man. You can go ahead and check those out. Facebook is Swag Talk, Instagram Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. If you like to support the show, you can hit the Cash App $ Swag Talk. If you haven't done so already, I want you to subscribe to the channel. If you have, then hey, man, thank you very much. And tell somebody else to subscribe, man. And let's get these numbers going, man. Let's get our our account upward and onward. Like the video, share them, and hit that notification bell to be alerted to any videos that I upload. So, man, let's go ahead and jump into week 9, man. We're not gonna waste any time, man. We're gonna go ahead and jump down on this. We talk a little bit of swag football. First and foremost, the first game we're going to talk about is Texas Southern. They have homecoming this week, and they're taking on Lincoln University, California. This is a school from Oakland, California. They're called the Oaklanders. They are 1-6 on the season right now. They are playing all road games. They don't have a home game, but they are 1-6, and that's pretty much all I can find on them. I tried to find some stats and whatnot, but couldn't find anything. They've played three. This will be their third. No, this will be their fourth FCS opponent. They played Texas A&M Commerce, which they lost 57-7. They played St. Thomas, Minnesota, which they lost 43-6. They played Portland State. They lost their game 48-6, and then they'll be facing Texas Southern on Saturday. So they played a heavy D1 schedule. Quite a few FCS games. Right now, more than half of their games that they played so far are FCS games, and they've lost them all. But they are, they're a program that's trying to get started and trying to make some things happen. But like I said, I don't have any information on them at all. So we not, it's not a lot to really say. To me, this is a game that TSU, they just need to come out and focus on homecoming. We're not focusing on homecoming activities itself, but come out and focus on this game and get this team out the way early so you can move on to your next game. That's one of the marks of being a team that's a contender. You take care of games like this and you move on to your next game. So, like I said, I expect points to be scored. I expect, the offense to really click and put some points up. Defense probably even be able to get a touchdown, special teams touchdown. I think they're gonna, be able to get a homecoming crowd what they want. And I think they're gonna win this game by a score of 61-6. I mean, like I said, it's not a lot I know about this team. I do know that they give up a lot of points, and they are gonna give up a lot of points in this game too. So again, not a lot to really take into account, but it's one of those games that you kind of just hope to make it out injury free and move on to your next game because you have a big game coming up next week. So you really want to focus and get ready for that game. So that's that game. So let's move on to the next game, and it's another homecoming in Texas. Prairie View is taking on Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman and Valley had an incident after their game on Saturday. So if you're, is the swag gonna, wait till next week to dole out these suspensions as well? That's something to keep an eye out on. Valley's off this week. Bethune-Cookman obviously has a game, so we'll see. If anything comes out of it, maybe they don't. I hadn't had a chance to see it, so I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but that's something to keep tabs on as we move forward. Bethune-Cookman comes into this game averaging 22 points per game on offense. and Prairie View is averaging 27. Prairie View defensively is fourth in the league, allowing 24 points per game. Bethune-Cookman is last in the league in scoring defense at 40.1 points per game allowed. So they give up a lot of points. Um, they don't stop. They haven't been able to stop very many people. Total offense, Bethune-Cookman is fourth in the league at 364 yards per game, and Prairie View is sixth in the league at 360 yards per game. Total defense, Prairie View is fourth in the league at 349 per game. Bethune-Cookman is 11th at 446 yards per game. Rushing offense, Prairie View is second at 225.9 yards per game. Bethune-Cookman is eighth at 145 yards per game. Prairie View averages 5.2 yards per carry. Bethune-Cookman 4.6. Prairie View rushing defense is eighth in the league at 172 yards per game. And Bethune-Cookman is last in the league in rushing defense at 223 yards per game allowed at 5.5 yards per carry, which is the second most allowed in the league. So if you're Prairie View and you know Prairie View wants to run the football, they're gonna run the football and they'll probably be successful in this game. So that's something you definitely want to take into account. Passing offense, Bethune-Cookman is fourth in the league at 219 yards per game. They have 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Prairie View is 11th in the league at 134 yards per game, passing 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That passing game has still not been, it's not been exciting, but they get the job done. They haven't really been in a lot of positions where they needed it. One of these days, that's probably gonna come the case. Other than a game here or there early, they've been able to make do with their passing attack. Bethune-Cookman is ninth in the league in passing defense at 222 yards allowed, and they have 17 touchdowns allowed and 8 interceptions. Prairie View is third in passing defense at 176 yards per game, 9 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So they do a pretty good job of stopping the pass. Defensively, Prairie View is the least. They allow the least amount of sacks in the league at 7. Bethune-Cookman's quarterbacks have been sacked 25 times, which is 11th in the league. So they give up a lot of pressure, and that's not good against a Prairie View defense that has 17 sacks on the season. So Prairie View can generate pressure. They have a really strong defensive line, and they can definitely get pressure, and they probably will in this game. Having a guy like Jalen Jones does help alleviate some of that pressure, but also having a guy like that, he may take a couple sacks here and there. So, that's something that, really to be mindful of. Bethune-Cookman has 10 sacks as a defense, so they haven't really been generating a lot of pass rush. First downs, Prairie View averages 18 first downs per game, which is 7th in the league. And Bethune-Cookman averages 17 first downs, which is 10th in the league. Prairie View opponents, they average 20 first downs, which is 5th in the league. And Bethune-Cookman's opponents average 24 first downs, which is last in the league. Third down conversions, Prairie View is at 33%, which is 6th place. Bethune-Cookman is 30%, which is 10th place. Third down defense, Prairie View allows 37% completion, which is 7th place. And Bethune-Cookman 46%, which is 10th place. And, you got a defense that's giving up, almost 50% of completions on third downs. That's going to be tough against a team that can run the ball. If Prairie View can get themselves in, third and shorts, they'll probably convert the majority of those in this game. Fourth downs, Bethune-Cookman is 10th in the league. They're 5 of 13 on third down at 38%. Prairie View is third at 4 of 7 for 57%. Fourth down conversion for opponents. Prairie View's opponents convert 28% on fourth down, 4 of 14. Bethune-Cookman's opponents 40%, 6 of 15. Looking at some individual guys for each team. Rushing wise, you can definitely look at Quayshawn Bird and Jalen Jones for Bethune-Cookman. They are both about the same amount of yards. Jones 354, Bird 350. Bird averages 6.1 yards per carry, so he's a guy who can definitely bust an explosive play. Jones 4.8. Jones has 2 touchdowns. Bird has 1. And they both have a pretty long run. 81 for Bird, 74 for Jones. So those are guys who can definitely make some things happen in the run game. In the pass game, obviously, Um, Jalen Jones, 102 of 187, 55% completion rate, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,378 yards. Receiving, Marcus Riley, 22 catches for 331 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kamari Everett, 20 catches, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dylan Lee, 16 catches, 189 yards. So, those Everett and Riley are probably the two guys who definitely need to get the ball for Bethune Cookman because they can definitely, make some things happen. The return game, Darnell Dees had his second kickoff return of the season for a touchdown against Valley. So obviously that's a guy in the kick return game that you don't want to kick the ball to. He can break one at any time, so you definitely want to look out for him in the kicking game. Um, Radcliffe leads the team with 33 tackles. Ryan Blake 30, Lewis 29, Jones 29 tackles for loss. Smith 3.5, Loving 3.5, McKenzie 3.5, sacks. Loving 2.5 interceptions. Hill Robinson has 4, including a pick 6 against Valley. So he's the guy. Prairie View, like I said, is not the best passing team. They are prone to a turnover here and there. So that's a guy who can make a play for Bethune Cookman, and they're gonna need those kind of plays in this game because Prairie View's defense can be stout. And if that running game gets going, then you're gonna find yourself in situations where you have to pass. So you need to force Prairie View to turn the ball over whenever they have the ball. You need to get them in long down and distances. And that's going to be kind of tough on a defense that has given up a lot of points and yardage on the season. Um, for Prairie View, they have a three-headed monster in the run game. Ahmad Antoine, 555 yards. He averages 6 yards per carry with 5 touchdowns. Trezon Connolly, 397 yards, six yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. Jaden Stewart, 333 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. Uh, any one of those guys can bust loose, and they've had a couple games where all three of them have had 100 yards in that game. So they run the ball, and they want to run the ball a lot, and they will. Connolly right now is 76 of 128. He has 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 500 and all right. So moving on to the receiving point of Prairie View. they, like I said, they don't really throw the ball around a lot. They only have two guys with double-digit receptions. That's Ty Holden with 14 catches and Chris Herron with 12. Holden has 150 yards. Herron has 164 yards, one touchdown for Herron. Jalen Howard, 8 catches, 148 yards, and two touchdowns. He averages 18 and a half yards per catch. Um, the return game, they haven't really had anybody break out yet. Their special teams has been pretty solid. Reyes is a pretty solid kicker. Efren has been doing pretty well in kickoffs, averaging 38 yards per punt. Defensively, they're led in tackles by Keyshawn Johnson with 46, Warren Shanko 42, Jesse Evans 36. Tackles for loss, Jesse Evans 9.5, Johnson 6.5, Reese 5.5, sacks, Johnson 3, Evans 2, Jones 2, and interceptions. Logan Jackson and Gerald Smith each have 2 interceptions. This is honestly, I will say this is Purdue's game to lose. I think again, this is another homecoming game, so you want to watch out for those distractions. But I think Purdue, because of their ground game, I think they'll be able to control the tempo of this game, and they'll dictate everything that goes with it. They'll get Bethune-Cookman in a position to where they have to throw, and I think the Purdue pass rush should be able to capitalize on that. Now Bethune-Cookman will be game. They're gonna come out and they're gonna, like I said, they got a pretty solid offense. So you can expect for them to make this a game. I think Purdue will win this game going away by a score of 31-17. I think that Purdue run game is just really, really good right now. And I think they'll continue to put up some good numbers in that regard. Our next game is Alcorn State at Grambling. This game, two teams who need a win. I mean, Alcorn, the last 2 weeks, they've dropped two tough games, one for homecoming and one the week before on the road. They find themselves right in the middle of the pack in the West Division. So they need a win. They need to reverse course and get themselves back on track because they're not necessarily out of the division race, but they need to avoid tiebreakers. So the two teams in front of them need to lose. Southern need to lose at least twice. Southern needs to lose. They need to lose 3 games. Alcorn cannot lose again, honestly, if they want to find themselves in the division race, and they need to be Purdue. So there's a lot of work in front of Alcorn, but they can still get there. It takes a lot of work and a lot of movement, but it can happen. So they need this win. Grambling needs a win just for winning's sake. I mean, they obviously have not won a conference game yet. They haven't won a game since their second game of the season. So they have, they've been, getting better, in increments week by week, but they still haven't, crossed that winning threshold. So Grambling needs to, they need a win, and they need to start to find some kind of consistency on offense because their defense has not been as good as they had been in previous seasons. Offensively, Grambling is 9th in the league, scoring 22 points per game. Alcorn is 6th at 24.1 points per game. Grambling's defense allows 38 points per game, which is 11th in the league. And Alcorn's defense is 5th at 26.4 points per game. Total offense, Alcorn is 3rd in the league in total offense at 387 yards per game. They average 5.8 yards per play. Grambling is 11th in the league in total offense at 295 per game and 4.8 yards per play. Total defense, Grambling is 9th at 426 yards per game and 5.9 yards per play. Alcorn is 5th at 360 yards per game and 5.4 yards per play. Rushing offense, Alcorn runs the ball pretty well, 187 yards per game and average 4.6 yards per carry. Grambling averages 125 yards per game and average 4 yards per carry. Rushing defense, Grambling is 9th in the league at 203 yards per game allowed. Alcorn is 7th in the league at 154 yards per game allowed. Alcorn allows 3.9 yards per rush, which is the 4th least amount in the league. So they give up a pretty decent amount of yardage on the ground, but they make you have to kind of do it in multiple carries. They definitely make you kind of have to earn your keep, so to speak, on the ground. Passing offense, Alcorn They rank seventh in the league at 200 yards per game. They have 8 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Grambling is eighth in the league at 170 yards per game. They have 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Passing defense, Alcorn is sixth, allowing 205 yards per game, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Grambling is 10th in the league, 223 yards per game, 14 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions, which are the least in the league. Defensively, Alcorn allows 15 sacks, which is fifth. Grambling allows 18 sacks, which is ninth. Alcorn's defense has 25 sacks on the season, which is third in the league. Grambling's defense has 10 sacks, which is 10th in the league. I think that Alcorn pass rush can make some things happen in this game. I think they can do a good job of getting pressure on a young quarterback like Calvez. I mean, he can use his legs, but I think Alcorn's pass defense can be pretty solid. And I think if they can generate a pass rush, they'll have a good chance in this game. Alcorn averages 19 first downs per game, which is fifth. Grambling, 11 first downs per game, which is 15 first downs per game, which is 11th. Grambling allows 23 first downs per game, which is also 11th place. Alcorn allows 19 first downs per game, which is fourth place. Third down conversions, Alcorn is fourth in the league at 36%. Grambling is last at 25%. That's been an issue for Grambling all season is consistent offense. You know, they can hit the big explosive plays, but they can't necessarily consistently drive the ball down the field. If you have them have to make multiple drives down the field, that eventually something will go wrong. And they won't be able to finish it. Grambling is sixth in the league of third down defense at 34%. Alcorn is eighth in the league at 37%. Fourth downs, Alcorn is fourth at 55%. Grambling is ninth at 42%. Grambling's opponents convert 66% on fourth downs, which is last in the league, and Alcorn's opponents convert 44% on third downs, which is 10th in the league. So just kind of looking at some of the individual guys to look out for both teams. Obviously, Alcorn, they offense starts and ends with Jarvion Howard. He's a back that can get it done. You know what I mean? He's a guy who can, he can tote the load. And he's honestly right now he's the top back in the conference in terms of yardage at 860 yards on the season. He averages 6.1 yards per game and 9 touchdowns. Now they're not scared to give him the ball a ton of times. He has 141 carries, which is more than double the amount of Nico Duffy, who is the second leading rusher at 256 yards. And he has 60 carries. Javante Leatherwood 166 yards and 1 touchdown. So all three of those backs average more than 4 yards per carry. So they all can get it done. But Howard has been the guy all season to get the yardage, and he will, barring anything crazy, he will be 1,000-yard rusher this season. Aaron Allen is 114 of 183 with 8 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, 1,352 yards. Now, he did have 3 interceptions in the last game, although he did still throw for a good amount of yardage. This offense, the passing game has been up and down, but they live and die with their run game, and they're not scared to, take the air out of the football and run it if they need to. Juwan Anthony has 24 catches for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. C.J. Bolar has been nicked up all season, so right now he has 17 catches for 162 yards. Malik Rogers, 12 catches, 209 yards and a touchdown. Montario Hunt, 11 catches, 245 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Rogers and Hunt both average over 17 yards per catch. So they're both guys who can go up and get it. And they're not afraid to stretch the field with those guys. The return game hasn't really been anything special right now. They haven't really broken anything. Special teams has been an up and down affair for Alcorn all season, especially the punting game. They average right now 32 yards per punt. So, if you're Grambling, then you definitely want to be able to stop them on their side of the field. You end up with pretty decent field position most of the time because they haven't been punting consistently all season. Leading tackler is Terrence Ellis with 42, Kinsler 35, James 32. Tackle for loss, Ellis and Cherylus with 5.5, James and Rice and Webb with 5 each. Sacks, Bailey with 4, Rice with 3.5, Ballard with 3, Ellis 2.5. Like I said, they have 25 sacks, but they're spread out amongst the team. So they don't necessarily have that one guy that can, that's gonna wreak havoc, and you have to know what that guy is. You have to kind of know what everybody is because anybody can get a sack for this team. And their 5 interceptions are spread out between 5 guys. So again, they kind of get it done by numbers and not individual guys. Grambling right now, their leading rusher is Maurice Washington at 233 yards on the season. He averages 9 yards per carry. He doesn't get a lot of carries. I know early in the season he was banged up a little bit. He missed a couple games, but he doesn't get a lot of carries. And a guy like this, I think, should get more than 3 or 4 or 5 carries in a game. I'm not saying he needs to get 20 or even 15, but give him 10 carries. I mean, he averages 9 yards a pop. That's almost 100 yards right there. On average runs, he has the speed to break it. But they tend to not run him a lot. Calvez is second at 142 yards, 3.9 yards per carry. Williams, 133 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. They play a lot of backs, and they haven't really got that guy yet. Calvez is 29 on 81, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I feel like I guess they finally settled on a QB, but they have not really been able to have a consistency on offense. Receiving Lyndon Rash is the guy. He has 22 catches, 399 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he's averaging over 18 yards per catch, and he can definitely make some things happen when they get it to him. They do have a punt return for a touchdown this season from Donald Johnson in their last game. The kicking game is pretty solid. Defensively, they led in tackles by Lewis Matthews with 62. He's definitely the guy who's going to be around the ball a lot. Joshua Reed with 45. Tackles for loss, Lewis Matthews 7. Tackles for loss, Anderson 5.5. Sacks, Anderson 3. Powell 2. Interceptions, like I said, they only are 2. They are by Thomas and Lee. This is a tough game to pick. On paper, Alcorn is the better team, but Alcorn doesn't play that well in the whole. So you gotta kind of expect Grambling to be tough. That they are definitely not gonna give up. That they're really fighting pretty hard these last few weeks. So I expect nothing else from them than to fight hard in this game, and get and give it all they got. But I think Alcorn with their running attack and the pass rush they have caused Grambling enough problems for Alcorn to win. Alcorn needs this win. I kind of feel like they may not be playing the crispest football in this game, but I think they'll do enough to win by a score of 27-20. I think it's gonna be tough in the hole. So don't expect all. I don't expect Alcorn to come in and just blow these guys out the water that easily. So our next game is Arkansas Pine Bluff with Coach Treadwell as the interim coach, filling in for Doc Gamble, who was let go last week. They travel to Tallahassee to take on the Rattlers of FAMU, and it's FAMU homecoming. So, that's a tough place to play already, and you add homecoming crowd on top of that. That's a tough ask for a Pine Bluff team that's been very inconsistent. A team when you say that numbers don't tell the whole story, you can twist numbers to say what you want them to say. Pine Bluff's one of those kind of teams. If you look at their numbers are pretty decent. They average 29 points per game, which is excuse me, which is actually 3rd in the league. FAMU averages 23 points per game, which is 7th in the league. Pine Bluff defensively, they allow 37 points per game, which is 10th in the league, and FAMU defense allows 27 points per game, which is 6th in the league. Total offense, FAMU is 342 yards per game, 5 yards per play. That's 7th place. Pine Bluff is right behind them at 333 yards per game, 5.1 yards per play. Total defense, FAMU is 6th in the league, allowing 363 per game, 5.5 yards per play. Pine Bluff 10th in the league, 434 yards, 6.5 yards per play. Rushing offense, Pine Bluff is fourth in the league in rushing offense. A lot of that is Kayvon Britton, the running back, 172 yards per game, 4.8 yards per carry. FAMU is last in the league in rushing offense at 86 yards per game and 2.8 yards per carry. Um, Rushing defense, FAMU is fourth, 147 yards per game, 4.5 yards per play. That's a nice little matchup. The FAMU rushing defense against the Pine Bluff rushing offense. That's something that you can probably look at to be a factor in this game. Pine Bluff allows 220 yards per game on the ground and 5.6 yards per carry. So if you're looking to run the football, if you FAMU, this is the team to do it against. They've been gashed on the ground in pretty much every game they played. Passing offense, Pine Bluff is ninth in the league at 160 yards per game. They have 5 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. FAMU is second in the league in passing offense at 255 yards per game, 11 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Passing defense, FAMU is eighth in the league, 215 yards per game, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Pine Bluff is seventh in the league, 214 yards passing, allow 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Pine Bluff allows 16 sacks on the season, which is eighth. FAMU allows 14 sacks on the season, which is third. FAMU's defense has 17 sacks, which is fourth in the league. And Pine Bluff defense has 12 sacks, which is ninth in the league. So this you can expect to see some pressure generated by FAMU because, like I said, Bethune-Cookman doesn't give up. They've given up a good bit of sacks. So I would expect to see FAMU get some pressure in that situation. Now, FAMU averages 20 first downs per game, which is fourth in the league. Pine Bluff, 17 first downs per game, which is ninth in the league. Pine Bluff is sixth in opponent first downs at 20 per game. FAMU is seventh, also at 20.4. Third down conversions, FAMU is fifth. They convert 35% on third down. Bethune-Cookman is seventh at 33%. Bethune-Cookman. Pine Bluff is ninth in the league in third down conversion defense at 41%. FAMU is fifth in the league at 34%. Fourth down conversions, FAMU converts 66%, which is the most in the league. Pine Bluff, 44%, which is seventh in the league. Pine Bluff's opponents only convert 18% on fourth down, 2 for 11, that's first. FAMU's opponents, 36%, 4 for 11, that's fifth. I'm looking at some of the individual guys. Like I said, the run game for Pine Bluff starts and ends with Kayvon Britton. He has 754 yards on the season, averages 6.2 yards per carry, and has 12 touchdowns. He's the number 2 back in the conference right now behind Jarvion Howard. So this guy can get it done. I mean, he's been bottled up in a couple games, but he also has bust loose in a couple games. So, if their running offense goes as he goes, nobody else averages, more than 27 yards per game, and that's Skylar Perry with 139 yards. So they don't really have a lot of guys. Britton has 121 carries. Perry is second at 39. So who's getting the ball for Pine Bluff in the run game. So if you're a fan, you know who to look at, and you know who you need to bottle up to stop that run game. They've been quarterback has been an issue for them this season. Skylar Perry has been hurt. Jalen Macon got hurt. Chance Edwards is a young freshman who's played a bit, made some mistakes. So it almost really doesn't matter who they put out there. There hasn't been a lot of consistency from anybody, but Skylar Perry is the leading passer on the team, 65 of 126, 687 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. All 3 quarterbacks have 3 interceptions, so they've all had problems with turnovers. Perry's completing 52% of his passes. Again, he's having one of those around 50% passing seasons, which is kind of where he's been his whole career. Raekwon Prince leads the team with 23 catches for 243 yards and 3 touchdowns. Chris Cochran, 21 catches, 249 yards. Williams, 14 catches, 198 yards. Britton has 15 catches out the backfield, so you can expect him to kind of get the ball. Maurice Lloyd has a kickoff return for Pine Bluff for a touchdown from 85 yards. Other than that, not a lot going on in their return game. Punt returns haven't been much. They've had a couple long returns, but no touchdowns. Defensively, they're led in tackles by Ryland Woods with 37, Williams with 36, Jones with 34. This defense has been banged up all season, so that's been one of the issues that plagued this team is injuries. 4 tackles for loss for Clark to lead the team. Clark also leads the team with 3 sacks, and they have 5 guys with 1 interception. I'm looking at FAMU. The run game has not been great as you look at the numbers. Um, the leading rusher this season is Jalen McLeod with 215 yards on the season. He averages 4.1 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. Terrell Jennings, 201 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Their longest run on the season is 25 yards. So they have not even had an explosive run, like a 30-plus-yard run on the season. So they have not really broken anything. So they've been like real, they've been in neutral in the run game. If they want to run it, this is probably the week to do it against a Pablo defense that gives up a lot of yardage on the ground. Jeremy Musa, 143 of 254, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,737 yards. He completed 56% of his passes. He knows who he wants. He wants to throw the ball to Xavier Smith, who has 54 catches on the season for 609 yards and 7 touchdowns. And Jamare Shareed has 30 catches for 421 yards and a touchdown. So, those are the 2 guys that he looks at. And he definitely can make some things happen. Shareed hasn't really had a breakout season in the return game this year, but he's definitely a guy that's capable of breaking a punt return at any time. The leading tackler on the season is Isaiah Major with 58. He's the leading tackler by more than 30 tackles. Timothy Williams Jr. has 28 at second place. So Isaiah Major is all over the field. He's been making a lot of plays. Stevens, 7.5 tackles for a loss to lead the team. Major, 7. Isaiah Land, 6 sacks. Stevens, 6. Land, 3. Major, 2 interceptions. Morgan has 2 to lead the team. This, again, this is kind of like, like the Prairie View game. I think this game goes as FAMU goes. I think if they come out and they dictate, what their offense is gonna do, and they get Pine Bluff, down early, and make them one-dimensional, they'll be able to win this game going away. If Pine Bluff hangs around, is able to find some success on the ground, that can hurt FAMU and maybe make this game a bit closer than it needs to be. But I like the Rattlers in this game by a score of 38-10. They continue to win. They are, they have a big game next week against Southern, so that'll be one, probably one of that'll be one of the biggest tests they have left on the schedule. So you can expect to see them come out in this game, take care of business, and move on to their next game. Pine Bluff, they are definitely in whatever mode because obviously they fired their coach. So they're trying to pick up the pieces and get things back on track. But, it's been a rough season for the Golden Lions, and I don't expect anything different at this point. Next game is the Magic City Classic in Birmingham. You have the Bama Bowl, Alabama State against Alabama A&M. Both teams, again, this is one of those kind of games, you never want to lose. And you definitely don't want to lose to a first-year coach. A&M has a nice streak going on, so you don't want to lose that. Alabama State's playing good defense, though, and the offense is still not quite there, but the defense, I think, is really good. Strange things happen in this game. So, you can be the best team coming in this game and lose. You can be a bad team and play the game of your life in this game. You can score a ton of points in this game, or you can hardly score any. So it's all over the place. But I think Alabama State and Alabama in their offense are 10th and 11th in scoring. Bama A&M had 21.6 points per game. Alabama State at 16.9. Alabama State scoring defense is third in the league at 20.4. A&M is ninth at 36 points per game allowed. Total offense, Alabama A&M is fifth at 364 yards per game, 5 yards per play. Bama State is 10th in the league, 308 yards per game, 5.2 yards per play. Total defense, Alabama A&M is seventh in the league at 402 yards per game and 6 yards per play. Alabama State is third in the league at 314 yards per game and 5 yards per play. Rushing offense, Alabama State is 11th in the league at 106 yards per game and 3.1 yards per carry. A&M is seventh in the league at 159 yards per game and 4 yards per carry. Alabama State is third in the league in rushing defense at 133 yards per game and 3.8 yards per carry. They've been a very, very good. They are in a very, very good defensive position. Like I said, they are, their defense is very stout. Like I said, 133 yards per game, 3.8 yards per carry. A&M's defense has actually been pretty good this year on the ground. 152 yards per game allowed, 4.4 yards per carry. That's sixth place. Passing offense, Alabama State is sixth in the league at 202 yards per game. They have 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Alabama A&M is fifth in the league at 204 yards per game, 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Alabama State is fourth in the league in passing defense at 180 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Alabama A&M is 11th at 250 yards per game, 15 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Alabama State allows 16 sacks on the season, which is seventh. Alabama A&M is 10th at 19 sacks. Alabama State's defense, they have 15 sacks on the season, and Alabama A&M has 15 sacks on the season. So they're both pretty much in the middle of the pack in that aspect. Alabama A&M has 20 first downs per game, which is third. Alabama State is eighth at 17.7 first downs per game. Alabama State's opponents have 18 first downs per game, which is third. A&M's opponents have 21 first downs per game, which is ninth. Third down conversions, Alabama State is third in the league at 37%. A&M is ninth in the league at 31%. Third down defense, Bama State is third at 31%. And Alabama A&M is 11th in the league at 46%. Fourth downs, Alabama State converts 28% on fourth downs, which is last place. A&M is eighth place at 43%. Alabama State's opponents 30% on fourth down, which is third, and A&M's opponents 58%, which is 11th. So, like I said, these two teams, Alabama A&M is more of an offensive team. The defense has been a bit better this season. Bama State is all defense. The running attack, which I thought would be a lot better this season, hasn't really generated the numbers. Ja'Cory Merritt, 297 yards. Santo Dunn, 266. Juwan Howell, 158. They each Howell has 4 touchdowns. Dunn and Merritt each have one. They don't, like I said, they just haven't really been explosive this season. Passing wise, Miles Crowley right now is the leading passer, 53 of 91. He has 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 772 yards. Davis has been banged up all season, so I think you kind of got to go with a guy like Crowley, who is there. Like they say, your best ability is availability, and he's there. Hickson leads the team with 22 catches for 235 yards. He has 2 touchdowns. Chenault, 14 catches, 210 yards, 1 touchdown. Johnson, 13 catches, 276 yards and a touchdown. Scott, 13 catches, 207 yards and a touchdown. So that's 4 guys who, they kind of can get the ball to at any time. Robert McMinn is a really solid punt returner. He hasn't really been able to get loose this season. He's averaging 23 and a half yards on kickoff returns. So, he has a 43-yarder on the season. Defensively, Bubba Adams is their leading tackler with 70. Rashard Davis is second at 40. So, like I said, Bubba Adams is always around the football. He has 40 assisted tackles. So anywhere the ball is, he's there in one way, shape, or form. He also is second on the team in tackles for loss with 6, along with Adrian Maddox. Brandon Gaddy leads the defense with 6.5 tackles for loss. Young Roll has 3 sacks to lead the team. Adams and Gaddy and Ogletree each have 2 sacks apiece. interceptions. Maddox and Isaac each have 2 interceptions. Looking at Alabama A&M, Donovan Eaglin is the guy in the run game. He basically took over this running attack. He has 526 yards, averages 5.7 yards per carry, and has 5 touchdowns. He's not a guy who's gonna bust a lot of runs. His longest run on the season is 26, but he can definitely still get his yardage, and he can make some things happen. Um, right now, the passing game, they are kind of I don't really want to say they're alternating quarterbacks, but Casey and Langford have been playing. Langford is 92 of 167 on the season. He has 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, 1,045 yards. Casey, um, 30 of 58, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 361 yards. Passing game right now, they're led by Isaiah Cox with 19 catches for 284 yards. Brian Jenkins Jr., 18 catches, 142 yards. Keenan Hambert, 17 catches, 198 yards. Cameron Young, 15 catches, 156 yards. Cox, Hambert, and Young each have 2 touchdowns apiece. Uh, the return game, like again, they haven't really had much success in the return game defensively. They're led in tackles by Drake Terry with 44, Moses Douglas with 38, Hayes with 33, Rice with 32. Tackles for loss: Hayes 9, Terry 6, Thomas Douglas 5.5 sacks. Thomas Douglas and McNeil, they each have 3 sacks apiece. Interceptions: Rice and Douglas each have 2. This game, like I said, strange things happen in this game, and I'm predicting another strange game. I think it's going to be normally I would pick this game to be a low scoring affair because of Bama State's defense, but it's the Magic City Classic, and like I said, strange things happen. I think A&M continues their streak. I think they win this game by a score of 42-38. That's a lot of points for Alabama A&M to give up, and that's a lot of points for them to score. But there's been games like this where they had multiple overtime games and they've ended up in the high 40s. I can see another game like that. These two teams are going to go at it in Birmingham, and I think you won't be disappointed if you watch that game. The big game of the week, which is the game of the week, College Game Day, will be in Jackson, and that is the Boombox Classic, or Southern and Jackson State or Southern, whatever you like to call it. I'm old school, so I call it Southern versus Jackson. The Boombox thing is new to me, so I've always called it Southern and Jackson. I always said it didn't need a name, and it still doesn't. This is a huge game. JSU is a machine. They're Jackson State. They're 7-0. They handled Campbell basically 22-7, giving up a late touchdown to change the scoreboard, but not to really change the game itself. So they gave up an early touchdown to Campbell, but they locked him down for the rest of the game, kind of like they've been doing all season. Their defense is amazing. Offensively, wasn't their greatest game, but Savion Wilkerson had a great game on the ground, over 100 yards. Passing game wasn't what it normally is, but that offense can stumble, and knowing that their defense is going to have your back. Southern is a team that they're playing good football now. Obviously, in the beginning of the year, Southern season looked in shambles, but they've been able to turn it around, winning 4 straight and putting themselves in position for this game to mean a lot for them in the SWAC race, because the West Division is jumbled up. They definitely need to stack up as many wins as they can for the rest of the season, because they really can't afford to lose many games, because you don't want to find yourself in tiebreakers with a team like Texas Southern that beat you. So both of these teams are basically 1-2 in most categories in conference. Scoring offense, they're 1-2. JSU number 1 at 40 points per game. Southern 39. 1-2 in scoring defense. Jackson State 10 points per game. Southern 18. Total offense, Jackson State first, 495. Southern second, 460. Southern averages 7 yards per play. Jackson State 6.5. Total defense, 271 for Southern. That's second place. Jackson State 190. Don't even give up 200 yards of offense. That's 7 weeks into the season, man. That's just nuts. Rushing offense. This is probably the difference between the two teams. Southern averages 228 on the ground. Jackson State is 6th in the league at 167. that's a good jump for JSU because last season their run offense was basically last or next to last all season. So the running game has definitely been better. Um, and that's definitely been a weapon for this offense, which makes the offense even that much tougher to stop because you can contain the passing offense. You're not going to stop it. I don't care who you are. You're not going to stop it, but you can contain it, and the run game can hurt you. So that makes this offense even more dangerous than last season. 1 and 2 in total defense. Running defense. Jackson State 73 yards per game. Southern 96. They both allow under 3 yards per carry. Southern 2.9, JSU 2.4. They combined to allow 9 touchdowns on the ground. So they don't, neither team has been giving up much of anything. Jackson State is first in passing offense, 328 yards per game, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Southern third in the league, 232, 15 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Those interceptions have been kind of, they threw in 3 interceptions against Texas Southern, and that was basically part of the reason why they lost that game. They've been a bit better with turnovers, but they are susceptible to tip balls. And if there's a tip ball, I don't think Jackson State's dropping it. Alcorn dropped a couple of tip passes. They could have changed that game. I don't think JSU dropping a tip ball. So, if you're Southern, you definitely have to be mindful of your turnovers in this game. Jackson State has 6 interceptions on the season. Southern has 10. So Southern will be dangerous when the ball is in the air, but JSU has a lot of guys that they're going to cross you up and spread you out. So, you're going to have to be really, you got to be really solid in coverage. And Shador's not going to make a lot of bad throws. So, if you're counting on interceptions in this game, that may not be the approach that you want. But you're going to have to try to find them when you can get them in a game like this. Like I said, they're both 1 and 2 in passing defense, 117 for Jackson State per game, 174 for Southern per game. Jackson State allows 9 sacks on the season, which is such a big jump for the O-line from last season. Southern allows 14, which is kind of a drop-off from last season. So that's second and fourth in the league, but Southern's offensive line has given up a few sacks. The new quarterback is one of the issues. They've also lost a couple guys on the offensive line, but the offensive line is still solid for Southern. Jackson State is first in the league. Southern is basically the top of first at 27 sacks. And they're going to both get to the quarterback, so that makes this a very interesting game. First and second in first downs, Jackson State 26, Southern 21. First and second in opponent first downs, 11 and 16. Third down conversion, Southern's first at 48%. Jackson State is second at 41%. Third downs, Jackson State is defensive third down. Southern Jackson State is first at 23%. Southern second at 30%. Fourth down conversions, Jackson State is fifth at 46%. Southern is sixth at 45%. Fourth down defense, Jackson State is sixth at 38%. Southern is eighth at 40%. These two teams, numbers wise, are very similar. If you're looking at, if you're looking at Southern, obviously they're buoyed by a couple games against Virginia Lynchburg and Florida Memorial, but they also have a game against LSU and a shutout loss to Texas Southern. So this team is not, they're not as good as that Florida Memorial game, obviously, but they're not as bad as like LSU or Texas Southern games. When Southern is playing well, they can score the ball and they can stop you. Jackson State, they've had a couple games where the offense has kind of been sloppy with the ball, but the defense has continued to make the plays and get them the ball back. And ultimately, they find enough plays to win. To me, the pressure is on Southern in this game because they have to come out and they have to take care of the football. They have to find a way to move the football against the Jackson State offense. Sean McCray right now is the leading rusher for Southern at 406 yards. He averages 6.7 yards per carry with 5 touchdowns. Gerard Sims, 356 yards. Carl Ligon, 323. And Kendrick Grimes with 253. So they have a lot of guys. They have 5 guys over 100 yards rushing. So they can do it in a multiple of ways. McCray is definitely going to have to use his legs in this game to be a factor. If you're Jackson State, you definitely want to keep him in the pocket. He's the guy who's not that tall. So if you can keep him in the pocket, you can get a few tip passes and see what happens. McCray, 94, 139. He's completing 68% of his passes, 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. The last couple of weeks when they've gone to the air, they've looked at Cassius Allen and August Pete. They're both big receivers. Allen, 16 catches, 294 yards, 3 touchdowns. Pete, 15 catches, 270 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Chandler Whitfield leads the team with 18 catches for 224 yards and a touchdown. Gerard Sims can catch the ball at the backfield. 11 catches, 153 yards and a touchdown. Cornelius Dyson, 10 catches, 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. The return game, Southern's the most almost team I've ever seen. Man, they've almost come close to breaking multiple punt returns, but they have yet to do it. They've almost blocked multiple kicks, but they haven't done it. But they've always been in the area. Jalen Campbell leads the team with 41 tackles. Corian Harris, 35. Trey Lang, 26. Lang leads the team with 10 tackles for loss. Taz Brown, 9. Kelby Gibbons, 6. Brown, 6.5 sacks. Lewis, 4. Lang, 3.5. Campbell, 3. Obviously, you look at the stats, you don't see Jason Dumas, but he's a guy, if he can win one-on-one matchups, then you're going to have to dictate 2 guys for him, which will open up other guys to rush the passer. But, it's going to be, the Southern offensive line against JSU defensive line and the Southern defensive line against JSU offensive lines are 2 matchups that are going to be great in this game. Like I said, the pressure's on Southern. They have to find a way to successfully and consistently move the ball against a defense that hasn't allowed that to happen. So, Southern defense cannot allow too many big plays. They have to get off the field when they get those stops. And Southern has to not turn the ball over on offense. Jackson State basically just has to play Jackson State football. They just have to do what they've been doing all season, and that should get you where you need to go. Wilkerson, 577 yards to lead the team, 5.3 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. Santee Marshall, 273 on the ground, 7.4 yards per carry and a touchdown. J.D. Martin, 156 yards, 4.5 yards per carry and a touchdown. Shador Sanders, 210 or 287, 73%, 2,231 yards, 23 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's been great this season. Last week was probably one of his bad games, but he still threw the ball, fairly well. So if you're counting on him to have a bad game for you to win, then you're probably never gonna win. Dallas Daniels, 44 catches, 511 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Shane Hooks, 36 catches, 372 yards, and 5 touchdowns. DJ Stevens, 23 catches, 221 yards. You got Willie Gaines, you got Kevin Coleman, J.D. Martin, Savion Wilkerson, Rico Powers, Cameron Buckley, Santee Marshall, Quake Davis, Travis Hunter now is back. Dutch. It's a lot of guys, bro. It's a lot of guys, and the return game is dangerous. You got Bolden who can break one at any moment. You got Coleman who's doing well in returns. You just got weapons, and the kicking game is solid this season too. So there's not really any way you can look at this team and be like, okay, that's where they're weak at. That they don't really have that this season. Aubrey Miller is a monster at linebacker. He leads the team in tackles. Tackles for loss. Niles Gaddy leads the team with 9 tackles for loss, and he leads the team with 5.5 sacks. But they can rush with anybody. So you don't key on one guy and stop this pass rush. And they have 6 guys with 1 interception apiece. So this team is, they are the best team in the league. There's no sugarcoating that. Throwing the rivalry bullshit out the window. As a Southern fan, this is a very good Jackson State team, and Southern's gonna have to play their best game of the season to win this game. I really, if I was a betting man, I'm always gonna bet the odds. And JSU is the favorite in this game. I would love to see the point spread. I think the point spread will probably be around 10 or 12. It was like 15 against Campbell, so it's probably going to be like 13, 14. That doesn't mean the game going to end that way, but I think that the point spread will be in that range. But I think this game is going to be a closer game because it's a rivalry game, and I think both teams are going to duke it out. I think it's going to be a physical game. I think it's going to be a hard-hitting game, intense game. Whatever else you want to call it. I think both teams are going to get out there. But I like JSU to win this game. By a score of 27-20. Now, obviously, when I'm in that stadium, I'm Southern all day. But my swag talk hat, I gotta go with JSU. But I'm pulling for my Jags. But I'm really hoping for a great game, like I said, college game day. Hopefully the weather is decent. Early look at the weather didn't look so great, but hopefully the weather improves and there's a packed house and both teams and both schools can show the nation what we both about. The top two fan bases in the league. Whatever. Honestly, it's probably you know, to me, no, I love the Bayou Classic, but to me, JSU and Southern is probably the most intense rivalry out of anybody. And what better game to showcase the league? So, with that being said, I'm your boy C Wells. I'm gonna stop this tour bus and let y'all out. Swag Smoke live on Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. My boy Jamie G will be in the house. Of course, we're gonna get all the Boombox Classic talk off and then we're gonna recap all the games on Sunday. So if you come into a game, holler, man. I'm gonna be in Jackson for sure. Look for the Swag Talk shirt. I'm gonna be out there doing my thing. So if you see me, holler. If you go to any other game, man, please be careful out there, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.